Question 2. David, Sean, bring a news story and tell us about it.
Who's up, Sean?
Let's do rock, paper, scissors, best of one.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Damn it. Dude, I swear I always lose. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I don't know why. So you won. So I guess you get the pick if you go first or I go first.
You go first.
All right. So we're going here. My news story is Bitcoin hits an all-time high of 23K per Bitcoin.
Buckle up. Yep.
Yeah. So for the audience, we have a meeting like in the middle of the week, and we kind of plan out like the topics and stuff like this, and we did talk about Bitcoin a little bit, but I have my argument more well thought out. So Bitcoin. It's the story. The news story is that it hits an all-time high. It hits an all-time high. It's worth $23,000 for one Bitcoin, and I'm on board with Bitcoin. I've thought about it a lot, and I've been thinking about it a lot over the past 4 years. So let me put together my pitch and
Okay, let's hear it.
tell me. All right. So
To be clear, I'm not like a fervent hater of Bitcoin. I just don't. Maybe you can convince me that it's more.
Yes, that's kind of my
legitimate, that
goal.
it will be more widely accepted.
Yeah,
Okay,
when we
let's
were
hear it.
talking in the middle of the week, you were kind of just like, I don't know what, like,
Yep.
and that's kind of good. That's good because I have talked to other people that say the same thing, and I always say like I gotta kind of work on my personal like reasoning for why it's gonna be it's big. It's a big deal. So my thesis is basically this is a revolution that we are lucky to live in the piece of history of. So, all right. So, do you like save money? Like, do you? I mean, you have a family. Like, like your
Sure.
daughter's college in the future. Like,
Sure.
and you save money in what? Do you have like a savings account with U.S. dollars?
Yes, we have that. We have investments in like a traditional 401k and a Roth
Okay.
IRA.
Okay. All right. So traditional U.S. dollar investment. So the U.S. dollar, every time they print more money, it lowers the value. If you're going to save money and you have $100, you put it under the mattress, and you come back 20 years later, it's going to be worth less because of inflation. So you want to do something better with the dollar. So, so one way to look at Bitcoin is an investment, and I like to invest in things I believe in. Like
To me, that's the only like.
All right.
For me, that's the only thing to
Okay.
believe in is an investment.
Okay, so I'm a good investor. I have like $80K like in like investments, and the companies that I invested in, I own shares of Shopify, Facebook, Snapchat, Tesla, and this company Afterpay. And all of these companies that I invest in are things that I know. Like I see, like I invested in Snapchat years ago, the day they came out with their ad platform, and I started using it, and I was like, this is pretty good. And that's way up. Like I own a Tesla. I use Facebook and Shopify every day. I bought this company Afterpay, which is like people financing shit when they buy online, which for like $30, which they shouldn't do. I'm up like 23K profit, 149% of my investments. And I don't look at Bitcoin like an investment like that. But it is an investment in a way. And I mean, I cashed out 22K in Bitcoin. I'm up another 18K. I'm up 742% of my Bitcoin investment. And that's in US dollars. Like, so regardless of what the future of it, it's been a good investment. But you're not investing in a company. What you're investing in with Bitcoin is it's the global, it's a revolution. It's the revolution of like personal freedom. So it's digital gold. So what are your thoughts on gold?
What do you mean? It's
Gold.
Shiny.
Yeah, I mean it's rare and like.
So the
hundreds
reason
of years ago, people assigned value to it, and that's what tax banks.
yes,
Yeah.
and it can't be reproduced. It has to be mined. There's a limited amount, and for thousands of years, governments have come and created currencies, but gold across the world has always been a store of value that doesn't go away, and it's just a rock, but it's a great store of value because it is. There's a limit, and also there's trust. People agree that it's worth value.
So when gold was first becoming valuable, it's because it's nice to look at, and
No.
people made jewelry, and it was like
No.
a sign of status because it was rare.
But the reason it has value is because it was rare. Because
Right,
it was it had to be mined.
but it was right, but it also was displayed, and like it was again a sign of wealth, and like rich people had
Sure.
gold,
Right. I mean,
and poor people
right.
wanted it, and it was
Right.
rare.
You can't explain why everyone trusts something, but one, it was rare, and two reasons. It was rare, and everyone agreed that it was worth something. Those are the two things that makes gold valuable throughout all of time.
There's a reason people agreed that it was valuable. Like there was again,
right, because it was mined. Because
Isn't it
because
used for electronics too? It's like
Yeah,
it wasn't back then.
way.
It wasn't certainly wasn't back then.
One of the arguments
Like
for gold is that, and I'm going to debunk this, is it's real. It has substance. It's a real thing. It has weight. It's just something you can hold in your hand and actually quantify with, like, this is a real thing in my hand. So yes, the fact that it was mined and it was rare and it couldn't just be easily recreated, combined with the trust and the physical attributes, are the reason why gold has been a store of value throughout all of time, across governments, across cultures. It's a global recognition of value. Bitcoin is just digital gold. It's digital gold. And the government just can't make more of it. The exact same way that gold is mined is the exact same way that Bitcoin is mined. There's only ever going to be 21 million. Right now, there's only 18 million in circulation, and the other 3 million are getting mined. Eventually,
do you know? Can you explain that to me? Like how it's mined?
So how it's mined is if you get it like gives you like math, like complicated math problems to solve, and if you solve them, like you're mining it. So it takes
who like created this?
Well, Toshiki Noshimoto.
Does he have like 1 million Bitcoins?
He's
anonymous.
He's anonymous. No one knows if that's his real name. No one knows where he is. So that was the smartest thing for him to do.
Right. So he's like, it's like he like set up these riddles and like, all right, now if you solve this, you'll get a Bitcoin. Okay.
Yes, and it's not all about like brain power. It's more about machine. Like people who mine Bitcoin, they have to have a lot of computing power and a lot of
machine learning and stuff.
Yeah, it's just like if you want to go mine gold, you got to get your hard hat on. You got to get the pick. You got to go mine it. You got to go physically do it. It's basically the same principle for how you mine Bitcoin. You solve these complicated problems. You need a lot of computing power. You need to put effort into it and money.
What I was reading is like you're solving like a blockchain to help distribute.
I know, yeah. But I don't necessarily know what a blockchain is, but regardless, I understand this.
The blockchain is the recording of the transactions, but so it's gold. It's the same thing as gold, and that's it. So that is the first part. So then,
can I stop? So gold was like cultures all over the world regarded gold as valuable. Yes. Like the Native Americans, when we came over, they also found gold valuable, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't like a perceived thing, like how this has
value.
So
it has inherent value.
It's like beautiful, and it's like that. You can't say this has nothing to do with it, like jewelry and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't created like everyone has to accept this. For whatever reason, everyone had already agreed upon that. Societies all over the world. So
it has inherent traits that make it valuable across cultures. So Bitcoin has the same thing. So it is the same thing as far as its rareness. Now, I said the thing that makes up gold is its rareness plus the trust. So what Bitcoin needs is the trust part. So there's a thing called Metcalfes Law, which is it's the effects. It's a telecommunications thing where it's proportionally the square number of connected users of the system. Basically, it's like a social network that picks up. The more people get it, the more valuable it gets. Because what's Twitter if no one else is on there? I'm tweeting it and no one sees it. Like, but if everyone's on it, it makes it more valuable and it picks up. It's exponential. So like, the more people that agree that Bitcoin's valuable, the more valuable it gets. And that's why this is my news story, because it's at an all-time high. And when the price goes up, that means more people are buying into it. So it needs everyone to agree. And so one of the things I've been paying close attention to over the last 4 years since I first bought it on a whim. And then I sold it, and then I went through a phase where I wasn't believing it, but I've always been paying close attention. Is I do see this like underlying community of people who are obsessed with it, And that's why it's the story that people are starting to agree, because I mean it's at an all-time high. And then there's like a strong community. This one time I tweeted to the guy who was on my podcast, John Vallis. I said, I'm a whole coiner, which is like a lingo. Once you own one whole Bitcoin, you're a whole coiner. It was the most retweets I ever got. I got like 600 retweets because it was this community of people. And so
it's very, very like passionate.
People are very passionate about it. There's
because the more people that buy into it and agree with them, the more valuable whatever they're holding on to is.
Right.
So they have a vested interest in that.
They do. But I mean, it's kind of like, I'm not comparing it to politics, but just like some people are really into it, but then there's like the average people who like, all right, I'll vote for this guy. I don't really care. But like, there's the people who really care. Like, yes, every revolution has to have its core group of people, but it's not just because they're the core group of people. It's also because they're convincing people along the way that are average about, it has to have some substance and believability to be able to have this snowball keep rolling of the people. So there's an underlying strong community there. And Jack Dorsey invested $50 million. Elon Musk said it's a far better way to transfer value than pieces of paper. That's for sure. Just for the sake of credibility, a list of people who invested it in the early times: Paris Hilton, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mike Tyson, Serena Williams, Lionel Messi, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Austin Kutcher, Kanye West. All these people were invested in Bitcoin from 2013 on.
If I want to follow somebody's lead when it comes to anything, especially thought leadership, it's Floyd Mayweather and Paris Hilton. So I'm with you.
I Googled celebrities who invested in Bitcoin, but my point of this paragraph of this essay of this argument is the credibility. There's not just random eggs on Twitter.
Sure.
It's real people. Not to mention that like this kid I know from college is now working. I looked at his LinkedIn. He's working for this new company. I looked it up. It's like a Bitcoin cryptocurrency like investing company. American Express, McDonald's accepts payments now. Like Microsoft's accepting payments in Bitcoin. Like big companies are kind of getting on board. So the people who like gold, the other thing they say is the physical attribute part. And I've always had trouble wrap my mind around this. They say Bitcoin is nothing. It's thin air. It's nothing. Gold is a real thing. Fuck that. That's bullshit. The fact that it's a real thing is actually a bug. It's not a feature. You can carry your Bitcoin around on your phone. Everyone has a phone. If you have gold, you have to lug around rocks. And most people that own gold, they don't actually own the gold. They own it on paper, which means they have to pay for storage fees. Someone owns a bunch of gold in a safe, and then they're selling like little pieces of it through paper. And then you will say, I own gold. And sure, but at that point, it's basically the same thing as Bitcoin. But the only value is these rocks that are in a
They
shed
also
somewhere.
have it as like decorative pieces, necklaces, earrings.
Yeah, and that's
rings.
cool. I mean, right. And that's and like in India, part of the culture is to like pass down gold, and you can use it. And like, yes, there is some gold in like watches and electrical wires. Like that's one of gold people's. This guy Peter Schiff, he's a very smart economics person. He's a
Gold
big hater.
fogies.
He's a big hater on Bitcoin. He's a big gold guy, and his main thing he says is that it's a physical attribute. If all else fails and you own gold, you can still use it to make a watch or okay. But I don't buy that. I mean,
so is there any argument that people make that like say something were to happen with catastrophic where like the internet like were to be completely
if
corrupted?
The internet goes off, Bitcoin's done.
Right. Okay. So there you go. That's relatively significant
there.
That's
not going to happen.
It certainly could.
But... No. I mean, the internet across the whole world can go just disappear. It's almost impossible. There's too many servers that like the internet just can't disappear. But okay, if the internet
I don't
could
think
disappear,
either of us know enough about the internet to make an argument.
It's like the sun rising every day. I don't think the internet's going anywhere.
Compromised. Certainly can be compromised. And yes,
okay. Systems can be hacked, but the internet doesn't go away. The people that are hacking systems are using the internet. The internet is such a The internet
is
infrastructure
the internet. Behind it.
Okay.
Could be an argument, right?
Sure.
I never heard that. I had never heard that, but
if the internet goes away, then yeah, that's bad. But that's a complex thing for the internet to go away. But yes, that's something. So, and the burden of actually carrying gold is annoying. So, the other thing is the adaptation of using it on a day-to-day basis. The government does not want this currency to be what we transact in. Now, gold and Bitcoin are the same exact thing. Now, people don't go buy things in gold. I don't go to the grocery store and buy something in gold. Now, you could never do that with gold. Like, we're not going backwards towards carrying gold, but you could do it with Bitcoin. You absolutely could. You could go to the store and buy stuff. No one uses cash anymore. Cash is absolutely ridiculous thing. And I just bought waters today, Apple Pay. Apple Pay, you just scan your phone. It's absolutely feasible that the currency could be transacted with
Digital.
Bitcoin. Now, that's a possibility. And if it's not, say that doesn't happen, then it still could be like gold, where it's like a store of currency. So not only is it a store of value, it's also the potential to be the currency one day. And with gold, you can't chop it up and buy a raisin and a house. Like, it's too hard, but that's very easy to do with Bitcoin. It's actually 1/50th of a 1/50 millionth of a Bitcoin or something like that. It's called a Tashiki or whatever the hell the guy's name is. But that's like the smallest breakdown of Bitcoin. It's like 1/50,
which would be like $1 or a penny or something.
No,
right?
it'd be 1/50th of a penny. That's the smallest you can break down Bitcoin. So that means you can transact with it. And as far as changing the changing of currencies, which would be a big overhaul, there would be a lot of resistance from the establishment of the world. But there is history about changing currencies. 1600 BC, Europe had made the first coins. China had the first paper currency in the 1700s.
This is the world. The world's quite a bit different, but
it's not impossible to believe that we could be using a different currency in the future.
So we would be trading in basically money that's backed in gold into Bitcoin, right?
Dude,
so how does that solve any problem?
Money is not backed by gold.
But money that is theoretically backed by value.
Dude, that's one of the big problems. It's not.
All right. So forget it. But this system that is broken would then be basically turned into Bitcoin. So how does it solve the problem? Because we can't create more?
Yes, exactly.
But then wouldn't it just keep getting diluted and like inflation would happen?
But it's just like gold. Just like gold, it can't. Inflation exists because the federal mint puts more paper money into circulation. That's impossible to do with gold, and that's impossible to do with Bitcoin. So inflation can't happen.
Right. But I'm saying, like, on the other end, it would just get diluted. Where, like, right now, everyone who owns it is, if you have one Bitcoin, it's $23,000. If it had to be used by everybody, so what? Like, everyone would sell their Bitcoin. Like, how does like a poor person or a normal person like myself, like, if that transition would happen, nobody would have money except for people who currently have Bitcoin?
That is the biggest question in the Bitcoin world right now, is the transition.
And that's why, that's.
But it's not impossible. But it's difficult. But it's not. But here's the thing: it's not even required for that to happen for Bitcoin to be valuable, because if it's never the money that we transact in, then it's at least gold. Then it's at least a store of value.
I'll never say it's not valuable, for sure. I don't understand how it could be currency, how it could replace the dollar.
Well, you understand how it could be currency, right?
Yes, but I don't understand how that transition could not happen.
The transition, I mean,
unless you give Bitcoin to everybody, you can't just say because you didn't choose to invest in this, you now have no money. People will not accept that.
It's kind of scary to think about. So the government controls the money. The government can't control the Bitcoin, and it's kind of nice having like the U.S. government
unregulated. No, but I'm saying if somebody's rich right now, right, and they chose not to invest in Bitcoin, and then this were to happen, and the transition were to try to happen, a rich person is not going to accept that because they didn't choose.
Maybe they just exchange their money for Bitcoin, and then they get as much Bitcoin back for as.
What if their money isn't valuable because
money was
collapse?
Or to who?
Well,
who would they do that to? You'd be selling your Bitcoin and it'd be marked up like crazy. But like, you know what? We're good.
No. See, it'll always be sold at the market price. Like Bitcoin,
but if everybody was scrambling to get it, then the market price would be crazy.
The market price would go up.
Somebody who does know would go up
astronomically. That's why you want to buy it now.
And that's why the people that have it now are the ones that are pushing for it, because they stand to gain so much from everybody accepting it. But the people who don't have it, the people who like can't afford it right now, like so
well,
what,
you can buy $5 worth.
Okay, so everyone who like a poor person right now, say that like they're not investing in Bitcoin, right?
No, most people.
So if you have like $1,000 to your name, okay, and this were to happen, like you're shit out of luck.
Well, I don't know how the transition is going to look, but if you have $1,000 to your name and somehow the transition happens where Bitcoin is the accepted currency, you just take your $1,000 and you exchange it for the Bitcoin, and then you live in that world, and then you work, you get paid in Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know
if you're getting paid in Bitcoin. If you're getting paid in Bitcoin, like aren't you creating?
Well, the biggest problem now,
it more and more.
The biggest problem now with transacting in Bitcoin is the volatility. I would not want to turn on my website and accept payments in Bitcoin.
But it wouldn't be if it was accepted by everybody. It wouldn't be as volatile if it was
exactly. It'll eventually. Experts say that they think it's going to even out. A group of people say $100,000 per Bitcoin. Another group of people say $250,000 per Bitcoin. That's where it's going to even out.
How does a company go from what it has now to Bitcoin? It has to purchase it from who?
So there's exchanges. I have mine on Coinbase. Coinbase, it's an app, and you just.
So an individual would be selling it to them, or many individuals would sell them $200 billion worth of Bitcoin.
When I got those 600 retweets, when I said I was a whole coiner, and the community was like all behind me, I had probably had like 200 tweets back. 50 of them were get your Bitcoin off of Coinbase. Don't trust Coinbase. You want to hold your own key. So like you can like hold it on your own.
What I'm asking.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but I understand that. I understand how it can be, but how for this transition to happen, how would like a company that is worth X billion dollars, how do they transition that to Bitcoin? How does their value of their company transition to Bitcoin? By purchasing Bitcoin from an individual or many. Okay.
Yeah.
So
or mining it.
Okay, but probably not, right? Like then you have to work for it. That would be like mining gold as opposed to trading whatever you have.
Right.
So like why would they do that?
Well, if that's what people are transacting in.
But they have to then purchase. It just I don't get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
So but it makes sense about the digital gold, right?
Yes.
So
and I understand how it could be used to transact.
Right. And you're
like the transition.
But you're okay, so you understand how it could transact. You understand it's digital gold, and the confusion is the transition to everyone using it.
Because nobody you could not explain that to me in a way that would
that's
satisfy
not
me.
and I agree, I can't. But my point is that's not required for
it to be valuable.
Agreed.
And I'm not arguing that, but I'm arguing that
you should buy some.
Will not. I have some. I have a quarter of one Bitcoin. That
really?
And this, and this is, but it's not going to become cash.
You can exchange it for cash.
Like,
right? You can sell it for cash.
I mean, if you buy Disney as stock, it's the same thing.
I know.
As far as an investment,
I'm not arguing against that. I'm arguing that it's an investment, but it is not going to become. It's not going to replace currency. It's not going to replace money.
But it does have the transition is the most confusing part, but it does have the ability to, if the transition could ever happen. So my story, my news story is that Bitcoin is an all-time high, which because of the Metcalfes Law means that more people are buying into it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a moment in time where you might be embarrassed to tell your kids that you didn't buy Bitcoin. It's kind of like when the internet came around and people are like, oh, this isn't going to be anything. Like, I've been thinking about this for years, and my take is it's here. It is going to go way up, and people should buy it. If you have monies in a savings account, or if you have money in stocks, like, I mean, you should always diversify your investments, but Bitcoin is gold, and I see people, and I've been watching it over the last 4 years, buy into it. And buying into it is what matters. And it has the attributes to be currency. It has the attributes of real gold. And it is an amazing news story that it's at $23,000 and skyrocketing up.
I agree. It could be like getting into buying Apple stock for 10 cents right
Exactly.
now. But Apple stock would never become currency. It will have value for sure.
But this could, which makes it even more special. Just the
But
fact that
it can't.
I mean, it has
transition. The transition isn't confusing. It's not hard to believe. Like it couldn't happen. How could that happen?
I mean, it's not possible.
Okay, it's not impossible. But it's like incredibly unlikely.
Sure, I agree. But but Apple stock, but Apple stock could never be currency. Bitcoin could be, and that's just and that gives it a little more power. That gives it a little more power. And if it doesn't, it's at least a store of value.
It feels a little bit like it does feel a little bit like snake oil, because the people who are pushing it the hardest are the ones who are invested in it. So like they stand to gain from everybody accepting it because their wealth would increase dramatically, right? Like,
that's a fair argument, but I think that, and I've thought that a lot. I think it's past
true.
that. It's past that. Like it is a revolution. It is a currency revolution. It almost feels like I want to be part of the revolution.
I don't think it's a currency revolution, but I think that it's a solid investment, and it's exciting and it's new, but it's not going to replace, like everyone who says it's going to be how the economy works.
Yeah,
the dollar will no longer exist. Like
it has the ability.
I don't believe that.
Sean,
maybe in like 1,000 years.
Would your business? Okay, so just imagine the transition happen. What if your customers don't have Bitcoin? How would they pay for your clothing?
Right. The transition's confusing, but things that are valuable will still be valuable. Like there's nothing you can build more valuable than a company because it generates value. So whatever people are paying me in, whatever, like I create a company that provides value. I will get whatever exchange in return, whatever the currency is, that's what I'll get. So, right. That is the most confusing part. If it starts to be the currency, how do we get there? And I don't know the answer, but my answer on a simple level might be something like they exchange their money for Bitcoin and then they buy it in Bitcoin and then the price stabilizes. And then that'll be hard to do.
Yeah. Like, and then again, people who hold Bitcoin would then determine the value of it, right? If this had to happen, then like there's no way for it to happen that's not regulated.
It doesn't need to be regulated. It's naturally regulated.
That transition would have to be regulated, or else it's just like a lot of people will have just no money.
Well,
all of their wealth.
The regulation element is the fact that the language we're talking in is U.S. dollars, and like so, like
exactly. So that's one of my points.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. How does that change? I mean, we would just have to speak a different language, but that's going to be hard because the only reason people understand how much Bitcoin is worth is in U.S. dollars.
Exactly. So, like, how do we?
That's the same way we understand gold.
How does that change anything?
I don't know.
It's just the value, the wealth changes hands to people that are currently the ones standing on a soapbox screaming about Bitcoin because they would then have the power to determine the price, determine the value.
I mean, people determine the price. Like the market determines the price.
If I own a Bitcoin and this were to happen and there's a transition and I own one Bitcoin, I could determine the price. I'm not going to sell it to you unless.
No, because you could just go to these exchanges that.
But
it's like a stock. Like if I own Disney and I don't sell it to you and negotiate the price, right. we just both buy it from the exchange.
That's regulated by the SEC. This is not regulated, so you could buy it from me, like but you wouldn't. I wouldn't negotiate the price. You would just buy it for whatever the market price is. That's like if I were going to give you gold, we wouldn't negotiate the price. We would say how many ounces in it, what's the ounce of gold, and we would just. But if there's 300 Xboxes and the price of an Xbox is $500 and 2,000 people want to buy it, then some of these 2,000 people are going to pay more than $500 in order to get their hands on it.
But that's not how Bitcoin works. Like, I mean, the market price might go up, and then you might have to buy it at a higher market price. But everyone who buys it is always going to buy it for the same price.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the same price that fluctuates all the time. But anyone who buys it at the same minute is going to get it for the same price.
What would happen to the price if everybody had to transition to? I mean, like
it will go up
an absurd amount.
Exactly. That's why you want to get it now.
So what if you don't? But what if you don't have an absurd amount of money? And then,
then you get an equivalent amount of Bitcoin.
But then
your life is exactly the same. You can buy the same exact amount of things.
But if I say a Bitcoin was $1 million and I bought one from you, right?
You wouldn't buy it from me. No, you don't buy it from me. You buy it from the exchange. Why? You buy it from the exchange.
All right, guys. All right. It's time to move on.
Okay, really quick. Let me ask this one question. If I had $1 million and I bought a Bitcoin through an exchange to you, and you got what, $1 million or whatever their service fee is, right? Then you have $1 million of something that doesn't matter, of like $1 million US. How does that help you? Why would you sell it?
I mean, it's a good question. Like, it's not like a item that you sell. It's an exchange. It's open.
I understand, but why would you sell it if US dollars no longer matter? Why would you sell it? What do you stand to gain from selling it?
The exchanges would benefit from the transaction fees.
But how would you, as a person who owns a Bitcoin, if I'm going to sell it to
I don't sell it to a person. I sell it back to the exchange for cash, just like a stock.
But the exchange, why would the exchange sell? Why would, and then
because they make money on the transaction fees. They provide a service. But
maybe we'll take this offline. But
but no, it's a fascinating thing.
Matter.
It's a fascinating thing. My news story this week is that Bitcoin hits an all-time high, and I think it's a global revolution that I'm honored to live in this part of history, to be part of it, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And I think it's fascinating, and I might buy more. All right. I'm glad we had that conversation because I've been saying in our meetings that I want to talk about Bitcoin at one point. I think I have my thoughts well together there. That was a good conversation. And
after thinking about it and having this conversation, I think I'm less convinced. Not because of anything you did. You made good points, but like I am thinking about it in a different way now. But like I said, I did spend a couple $1,000s on. Like I invested a couple $1,000s in it. Yeah. So hey, all right.
All right.
Very good. So mine's a little bit different. The supply chain. So we're all excited about the COVID vaccine, right? That some people are unconvinced, whatever. But the supply chain for this vaccine is like wholly dependent upon Dippin Dots.
Wait, what?
Yep.
What? So I'm guessing it has something to do with the freezing or something.
Exactly.
Dippin Dots. Dude, this is the second podcast in a row we've mentioned Dippin Dots.
I know. That's why this, like, when I read this, it like struck a chord. So Dippin Dots is obviously the ice cream of the future. We all know that. And the biggest problem, like logistically, when they first started like distributing, was it has to be stored at like -49, -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything a degree or two below that, quality goes out the window. So like that was a huge logistical challenge because like a typical freezer or freezer truck bottoms out at like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So they had to like figure that out, right? The COVID vaccine, similar, it has to be actually stored colder than that, like 80 degrees below zero or something. But the kind of the problem has already been solved by Dippin Dots. So because Dippin Dots had this supply chain worked out, they called it like the cold chain or something. But basically, they're like mimicking the logistics and supply chain of Dippin Dots because it's such a like the temperature
are they mimicking it or are they like buying it or using it? Like is Dippin Dots getting rich or is Dippin Dots getting ripped off?
Maybe the logistic company that like came up with the system, I'm sure is getting rich. But at this point, it's become like Dippin Dots is not the only thing that has to be shipped at that level or at that temperature. But it like they're pioneers. Thank God for Dippin Dots, or this vaccine would have hit a wall.
That's a good one. That is crazy. Because Dippin Dots, that's like the most dud tagline ever. Ice cream of the future, and it's just not like. But now
the only reason to ever eat Dippin Dots is the novelty.
I haven't seen them in so long.
I was about to say I don't see them in the grocery store.
Baseball game. If you go to sporting
definitely
events,
not in the grocery store.
If you go to sporting
events, it's not the best way to eat ice cream. Like
it's significantly worse. Than ice cream. Way worse. It just tastes like ice, but it's cool because they're little dots.
Yeah, I mean, like when it was new, when it was the ice cream of the future, and it was like the first time we tried it, it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then it's one of those things that's like, I just want ice cream. Like.
Right, exactly. So short and sweet. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Bitcoin, so I don't think there's a whole lot to dive into there. But I thought it was interesting. Thought it was worth mentioning.
That's a good one. Boom.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
All right. So we're going on to this next segment.
Yeah.
All right.
Lay the groundwork. I can
lay the groundwork. You're the host right now. Have you ever heard a better podcast in your entire life? Take that, Joe Rogan. Best podcast you've ever heard. Get more podcasts right here, and subscribe to the show too while you're at it. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. Honestly, I love you.